Stop procrastination. Overcome laziness and achieve your goals. Written by Giovanni Rigters. Narrated by J.A. Leidig. Introduction. Procrastination is a bad habit that can turn into a rapidly downward spiraling journey. It starts off innocently as an avoidance of tasks and responsibilities that need to be fulfilled, but if allowed to develop, can turn into a nasty habit. There are many negative and harmful effects of procrastination, and it is vital that you learn to recognize the signs and take action to stop procrastinating. If you have acknowledged that you have a problem, then it's time you sat up and did something about it. Don't let procrastination ruin your life, relationships, and job. In this book are some suggestions that we have to encourage you to stop procrastinating. Procrastination postpones your success and keeps you locked in a state of emotional stress. You can get out of this frustrating state with a little forethought on your part. If you're reading this, you're probably struggling with procrastination in some form. Whether your procrastination is a minor issue that's simply hurting your productivity, or a major issue that's preventing you from achieving your goals, you've probably tried to overcome your procrastination on your own before, and saw that this can be difficult to do. Chapter 1. Are you a procrastinator? It happens to the best of us. There's a looming project that's really important. You should focus on completing it. Yet, you come up with a variety of excuses for why it can't be started. Bob needs to be called beforehand. You don't have the right paperwork, or you're not sure where to start. Regardless of the why, we all encounter those times when we procrastinate. Moreover, there's a cumulative effect to procrastination. Even when you finally complete a task, 5 more have popped up to take its place. No matter how hard you try, it seems like there's a never-ending cycle of things to do. The truth is, we've all procrastinated at some point in our lives. For most of us, it happens every so often, but for some people, procrastination has impeded their ability to live a happy and successful life. This book is written for the latter. Anyone who is struggling to get projects and personal tasks completed on a timely basis. It's not that hard to stop procrastinating. Really, all you have to do is form the same habits used by countless successful people and make them part of your routine. While these people often have the same fears and limitations as you, they're able to take consistent action because they've trained themselves to do so. In this book, 50 Anti-Procrastination Habits, you will discover a catalog of ideas to help you overcome procrastination on a daily basis. Whereas many books provide a simple list of tips, you'll learn why a specific strategy works, what limiting belief it eliminates, and how it can be immediately applied to your life. In short, you will learn the root causes of your procrastination and how to overcome them. This guide is meant to be a definitive source that will help you solve your procrastination problem once and for all. It is based on decades of scientific research on the topic and contains a systematic approach that you can implement in order to beat your procrastination, together with a comprehensive list of anti-procrastination techniques that you can use. The guide is quite extensive, since procrastination is a complex problem that requires a thorough solution. However, don't let that discourage you. Feel free to skim through everything here, especially when it comes to a list of anti-procrastination techniques, and focus on the things that you feel will help in your particular situation. This guide opens with an introduction to procrastination, together with an explanation of why we procrastinate, as well as scientific evidence which shows that you can learn how to stop procrastinating. Then, we will see an outline of the approach that will allow you to beat your procrastination, followed by a list of anti-procrastination techniques that you can use, together with tips on how to make this process as effective as possible. While reading, keep this in mind. Procrastination is a tough issue to handle, but if you take the necessary time to read this guide and formulate a valid plan of action, and if you then follow through on this plan, you will have an excellent chance at overcoming or reducing your procrastination. Chapter 2. Why People Are Lazy. If you're a procrastinator, you've probably asked yourself some variation of the following question in the past. Why do I keep procrastinating even though I know that it's bad for me and even though I want to stop? People often assume that they procrastinate simply as a result of laziness or a lack of willpower, but the real answer is much more complex than that and has to do with the cognitive mechanisms that we use in order to self-regulate our behavior in our attempts to bring ourself to take action that is in our best interest. In short, when we need to perform a certain task, we usually rely on our self-control in order to get ourselves to do so. Furthermore, our motivation, which is based on the desire for some reward which we will receive as a result of completing that task, can provide a helpful boost to our self-control, which helps us act in a timely manner. In addition, there are also various hindering factors, such as mental exhaustion or distracting environments that interfere with our self-control and motivation directly, in a way that also makes us more likely to procrastinate. Whenever these demotivating and hindering factors outweigh our self-control and motivation, we end up procrastinating. We then have to wait until the balance between them shifts back in our favor before we can get started on our work, which can sometimes take a very long time. However, as you will see in this guide, by using the right techniques, it's possible to actively shift this balance in your favor sooner rather than later. This will allow you to take control of your life and enable you to get your work done when you want to, rather than when your procrastination says you can. Chapter 3. Reasons why people procrastinate. Fear of failure. You cannot control other people's responses to your work. Overvaluing these responses can create anxiety. Perfectionism. Having unreachable standards will discourage you from pursuing a task. Double insurance. Procrastination can be a way of protecting our self-esteem. Example, if I don't do well on an exam, it's because I didn't study. If I do well, I'm a genius because I didn't study. Fear of success. Afraid of what might happen if we were successful. Our life might change in a way that expectations have now gone up. Fear of losing control. When feeling out of control, a person may develop a rebellious attitude in order to gain a greater sense of control. Example, a professor wants an assignment in by a certain date, and I chose to submit it 1 or 2 days later. Fear of separation. Afraid that successful completion of work could pull us away from others. Workaholics know this all too well, working so hard that it's starting to affect your home life and personal relationships. Fear of attachment. Afraid that successful completion of work could draw others too close. If you constantly hit deadlines at work, it could mean that you will get more work put on your plate by managers or employees you work with. Chapter 4. 7 excuses you might have for procrastinating. It's pretty easy to make an excuse for not starting a task. The trick is to know when a reason is valid and when it's a creative way to avoid taking action. Most of our procrastination feelings come from a subconscious fear or self-limiting belief. When you take time to explore these thoughts, you'll find that it's easy to overcome them and create an action-oriented mindset. Your mind is an amazing machine. It gives you the power to create anything from your imagination. However, it can also limit your ability to get things done. We often get stuck with a project not from a lack of desire, but because of maladaptive thought patterns that bounce around in our heads. The root cause of the procrastination habit comes from our self-limiting beliefs. When these thoughts go unchecked, they cause you to make excuses for why a project or task can't be completed. However, when you challenge these excuses, you'll see that most of them are caused by hidden fears or destructive habit patterns. There are 7 excuses that people commonly give. Understand why they occur, and you'll be one step closer to overcoming procrastination. Excuse 1. It doesn't matter. People often avoid tasks that don't seem important. Sometimes it's not time critical. Other times, it's an unpleasant task that doesn't relate to a long-term goal. And often it requires you to overcome a major fear. No matter what thought runs through your head, there are times when we put off a task because it doesn't seem to be important. One of the simplest remedies to the doesn't matter excuse is to develop the habit of making simple decisions. Either you get busy with completing a task or you have the courage to get rid of it. As you'll learn, one of the best ways to overcome procrastination is to make hard decisions in your life, even if that means eliminating things that once seemed important. Excuse 2. I need to do blank first. Projects often get hung up because a specific task needs to be completed before doing anything else. Whether it's a phone call, conflicting project, or a simple purchase, it's easy to procrastinate when there's something that needs to be done before anything else. You can forever eliminate this excuse by developing the habit of completely defining each project. The key here is to break them down into a series of tiny actions that you take on a daily basis. Credit to Getting Things Done for this major insight. Excuse 3. I need more information to get started. Sometimes this is a valid excuse. We often have tasks that require extensive research before getting started. However, I don't think that it's a valid excuse if you're doing it on a weekly basis. At the risk of sounding snarky, the simplest solution to this excuse is to get more information. Not knowing how to do something should never be a reason to avoid a project. Nowadays, it's possible to learn any skill or find someone else to do it for you. Excuse 4. I feel overwhelmed and have too much to do. We all experience those moments when we feel overwhelmed. It seems like no matter how hard we work, our to-do lists never get to done. Usually this problem happens to people who possess the Superman mentality, where they feel personally responsible to do everything on their own. Feelings of being overwhelmed can be eliminated by focusing on important projects and delegating/eliminating the rest. Once you know how to identify what's important, you'll find it's easy to single-handle each task and get things done in a consistent manner. Excuse 5. I don't have time right now. Again, this is a completely valid excuse. Sometimes you're focused on a project and it doesn't make sense to start another one. However, the no time excuse often turns into a nasty procrastination habit where you're forever putting off important things. Saying you don't have enough time now promises a perfect future when work will be easier, less complicated, and fun to do. Subconsciously, though, many people make this excuse with the secret hope that the need to do the task will eventually disappear. If you keep delaying action until that mythical someday, chances are quite high that you'll never tackle this project. Excuse 6. I keep forgetting to do it. People often procrastinate on a task because they forget to do it. Sure, we all have those moments when something slips our mind. However, being chronically forgetful is a sign of a deep-seated resistance toward a specific task. Perhaps you don't think it's important. Maybe you're scared of failure, or perhaps you're not using an effective organizational system. The point here is that forgetting isn't a valid reason for procrastination. At some point, you'll need to make the commitment to either start a task or get rid of it. Excuse 7. I don't feel like doing it. Sure, there will always be unpleasant tasks that we dread. The secret is to know when something needs to be done and when it can be permanently eliminated. We often confuse the two by avoiding tasks that might have a positive long-term impact on our lives. That means that even if you don't want to do something, that shouldn't be the only reason for why you're putting it off. Chapter 5. How to Stop Procrastinating. In order to stop procrastinating, you first need to set your goals and then identify how procrastination will prevent you from achieving them. Next, you need to create a plan of action based on this information and then implement this plan while making sure to refine it as you go along. In the following sections, you will learn about each of these steps so that you'll be able to use this approach as effectively as possible. Set your goals. The first step to overcoming your procrastination is to set your goals. When you do this, it's crucial to make sure that your goals are as clear as possible, since you are more likely to procrastinate when it comes to goals that are vague compared to goals that are clearly defined. For example, be more healthy is a relatively vague goal, and you are therefore more likely to procrastinate when it comes to pursuing it than you are when it comes to pursuing a more concrete goal, such as drink only water and avoid eating fast food for the next month. Similarly, a goal such as start exercising is relatively vague and is therefore more likely to lead to procrastination than a goal that is more concrete, such as go to the gym 3 times a week and work out for at least 30 minutes each time. In addition, when setting your goals, you also want to make sure that those goals are achievable and meaningful. Achievable means that your goals should be realistic enough that you can actually accomplish them. Meaningful means that your goals should be substantial enough that they lead you to make notable progress. Identify the problem. If you want to successfully solve your procrastination problem, it's important to first understand the exact nature of the problem that you're dealing with. Specifically, there are 3 main factors that you should consider when assessing the nature of your procrastination. When you procrastinate. This involves asking yourself what situations do you procrastinate. For example, do you tend to procrastinate more when you're working from home compared to when you're working in the library? Do you struggle to finish tasks after you started them, or do you struggle to get started in the first place? How you procrastinate. This involves asking yourself what you do when you're procrastinating. For example, do you browse social media, play video games, watch TV shows, go out with friends, or find small and unimportant tasks to complete? Why you procrastinate. This involves asking yourself what's causing you to procrastinate. For example, do you constantly find yourself being distracted, or do you feel so overwhelmed that you don't know how to get started? Break your work into little steps. Part of the reason why we procrastinate is because subconsciously we find the work too overwhelming for us. Break it down into little parts, then focus on one part at the time. If you still procrastinate on the task after breaking it down, then break it down even further. Soon, your task will be so simple that you'll be thinking, gee, this is so simple that I might as well just do it now. For example, I'm currently writing a new book on how to achieve anything in life. Book writing at its full scale is an enormous project and can be overwhelming. However, when I break it down into phases such as research, deciding the topic, creating the outline, drafting the content, writing chapters number 1 to number 10, revision, etc. Create a plan of action. Once you've set your goals and identified the nature of your procrastination problem, you can create a plan of action which will allow you to stop procrastinating and start getting things done. To create a plan of action, you need to figure out which anti-procrastination techniques you should use and how to use them. These techniques, which are listed in the next section, fall into 2 main categories. Behavioral techniques. These techniques involve directly modifying your actions by helping you instill positive behaviors and avoid negative ones. Examples of behavioral anti-procrastination techniques include breaking large tasks into smaller ones and removing distractions from your work environment. Cognitive techniques. These techniques involve directly modifying your thoughts by helping instill positive thought patterns and avoid negative ones. Examples of cognitive anti-procrastination techniques include visualizing your future self and focusing on your goals instead of on your tasks. Prioritize tasks. Prioritizing your tasks can help you figure out which tasks you need to work on and when you need to work on them. This will ensure that you don't end up procrastinating by wasting time on trivial tasks while neglecting important ones, and will also help you avoid situations where you feel overwhelmed because you're not sure where to start or which tasks you should be working on. 2 common methods for prioritizing your tasks are the following. The Ivy Lee method This method involves preparing a to-do list at the end of each day and writing down a list of 6 tasks that you want to complete tomorrow, ranked in order of importance. The Eisenhower matrix. This method involves categorizing each task that you have based on whether it's important or unimportant, and based on whether it's urgent or not urgent, and then prioritizing your tasks based on these criteria. Visualize the future you want. Imagine the emotions you will feel. Picture yourself in a favorite place, celebrating what you've accomplished. Imagine those who love you most celebrating your success. Harness fear. Fear is a powerful emotion that can keep us mired in excuses. Yet, by focusing on what you don't want, you can harness it in your favor. So write down how you will feel a year from now if you do nothing. Be brave and really honest with yourself about the cost of continued inaction. After all, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Build accountability. Enlist a support team or an accountability partner, or as I suggested in Stop Playing Safe, recruit your own personal board of advisors to help keep you focused and on track. Set up a time to check in regularly and let them know ways in which they can help. For instance, to remind you of past accomplishments and why you set about making these changes in the first place. Reward progress. Set up a reward system to ensure you celebrate progress and small successes as you go along. Whether a fun activity with friends or a treat for yourself, make it something that acknowledges your progress and effort. Act bravely daily, starting today. Building momentum is crucial as you start out, so commit to stepping out of your comfort zone at least once per day. Beginning today, before your fear-laden excuses, disguised as sheer laziness, kick in again. It can be something really small. After all, it doesn't matter how fast you are going, so long as you are stepping forward in a direction that inspires you. So take that first step, then another, then another. After all, life rewards action. Identify your productivity cycles. Different people have different cycles of productivity, which means that different people are productive during different times of the day. For example, some people might work better in the morning, while others might be more productive at night. Similarly, some people might be the most productive after they eat, while others might be more productive when they're hungry. A good way to reduce your tendency to procrastinate is to identify your peak times, which are the times of the day when you're most productive, and then plan your schedule so that most of your work is scheduled for those time periods. Establish a routine. Establishing a consistent daily, weekly, monthly routine can be helpful in getting you to avoid procrastinating. For example, you can set up a routine of doing creative work early in the morning before checking emails or social media, which is a good way to ensure that you start your day being productive and by completing your most important tasks while you still have a clear head. The routine that you establish should take your daily productivity cycles into account, which means that different routines will work for different people. Setting a routine is especially important in some cases, such as if you tend to have an erratic sleep schedule, which could make you sleep deprived and therefore more prone to procrastination. Try to reach a state of flow. A flow state is a mental state where you become completely immersed in the activity that you're engaged in. This state, which is colloquially referred to as being in the zone, is an optimal state of mind in terms of productivity, since it allows you to focus on your work and enjoy it, which significantly reduces the likelihood that you will procrastinate. To help yourself get to this state, try to create the right conditions by working during times when you're naturally productive and by removing external distractions from your environment in order to help yourself focus on the task at hand. Learn to pre-commit. What's the deal with cramming? Remember your college days where everyone would practically brag about how they were able to pull off a miracle all-nighter? The crazy thing is, although cramming is far from optimal in terms of the quality of work that is produced, it is quite useful in getting a fire lit under our asses, isn't it? According to a study on procrastination, this last-minute hurrah is inspired by the fact that there's no way out. Better yet, this feeling can be controlled without the worry and paranoia by pre-committing to a task before it's begun. Set macro goals and micro quotas. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. Motivation is interwoven with what goals you make as well as the plans you construct to achieve them. Without plenty of reasons to work, you'll find yourself burned out and lethargic. In a surprising study on motivation, researchers found that abstract thinking about goals can actually help with discipline. In the most basic sense, dreaming big isn't all that bad advice, though dreaming too much can be harmful. More on that later. But there's also the problem of setting up grandiose plans and becoming intimidated by your own lofty expectations. For example, in our research of thousands of proposals, we found that the number one problem thing people do when it comes to creating a proposal is that they procrastinate. Always hit the ground running. I've covered a plethora of research that shows analysis paralysis is one of the number one causes of procrastination. Not knowing what to do is often worse than the work itself. That's why you should always strive to hit the ground running for new commitments, especially in terms of how you start each and every day. The night before, create a simple to-do list. Forget apps, pen and paper, that consists of 3 big things that you want to get done and what work it will entail. Keep it at your desk for when you sit down or in your bag if you commute to work, and get it out right away when it's time to get down to business. This doesn't have to be the first thing in the morning either, just whenever you start work. It can work whether you're a night owl or an early bird. The redirect technique. Being too hard on yourself for procrastinating isn't healthy. In fact, this study shows that self-blame is definitely counterproductive. The study examined study habits in particular and had this to say: forgiveness allows the individual to move past their maladaptive behavior and focus on the upcoming examination without the burden of past acts to hinder studying. Now, that doesn't mean you should just give up, but rather that you shouldn't let the fact that you don't want to do something make you feel bad. Hell, if you read books like Daily Rituals, you'll see that many great writers struggled with their work ethic throughout their entire career. Instead, you should try to redirect your worst procrastination sessions into anything productive. Change your environment. Different environments have different impact on our productivity. Look at your work desk and your room. Do they make you want to work, or do they make you want to snuggle and sleep? If it's the latter, you should look into changing your workspace. One thing to note is that an environment that makes us feel inspired before may lose its effect after a period of time. If that's the case, then it's time to change things around. Eliminate your procrastination pit stops. If you are procrastinating a little too much, maybe that's because you make it easy to procrastinate. Identify your browser bookmarks that take up a lot of your time and shift them into a separate folder that is less accessible. Disable the automatic notification option in your email client. Get rid of the distractions around you. I know some people will go out of the way and delete/deactivate their Facebook accounts. I think it's a little drastic/extreme, as addressing procrastination is more about being conscious of our actions than counteracting via self-binding methods. But if you feel that's what's needed, go for it. Hang out with people who inspire you to take action. I'm pretty sure if you spend just 10 minutes talking to Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, you'll be more inspired to act than if you spent the 10 minutes doing nothing. The people we are with influence our behaviors. Of course, spending time with Steve Jobs or Bill Gates every day is probably not a feasible method, but the principle applies. Identify the people, friends, or colleagues who trigger you, most likely the go-getters and hard workers, and hang out with them more often. Soon you will inculcate their drive and spirit too. Get a buddy. Having a companion makes the whole process much more fun. Ideally, your buddy should be someone who has his/her own set of goals. Both of you will hold each other accountable to your goals and plans. While it's not necessary for both of you to have the same goals, it'll be even better if that's the case, so you can learn from each other. I have a good friend whom I talk to regularly, and we always ask each other about our goals and progress in achieving those goals. Needless to say, it spurs us to keep taking action. Tell others about your goals. This serves the same function as number 6 on a larger scale. Tell all your friends, colleagues, acquaintances, and family about your projects. Now, whenever you see them, they are bound to ask you about your status on those projects. For example, sometimes I announce my projects on the Personal Excellence blog, Twitter, and Facebook, and my readers will ask me about them on an ongoing basis. It's a great way to keep myself accountable to my plans. Seek out someone who has already achieved the outcome. What is it you want to accomplish here, and who are the people who have accomplished this already? Go seek them out and connect with them. Seeing living proof that your goals are very well achievable if you take action is one of the best triggers for action. Re-clarify your goals. If you have been procrastinating for an extended period of time, it might reflect a misalignment between what you want and what you are currently doing. Oftentimes, we outgrow our goals as we discover more about ourselves, but we don't change our goals to reflect that. Get away from your work. A short vacation will be good, else just a weekend break will do too. And take some time to regroup yourself. What exactly do you want to achieve? What should you do to get there? What are the steps to take? Does your current work align with that? If not, what can you do about it? Identify the 4 pillars of procrastination. According to an academic study titled The Nature of Procrastination, there appear to be 4 pillars of procrastination that influence the population at large. Identifying which pillar is stopping you from doing a certain task may be helpful in overcoming the initial barrier in getting started. After all, research on the Zeigarnik effect shows us that getting started really is the toughest part. Here are the 4 pillars. Low task value. Simply put, tasks that we perceive as low value, either in terms of fun or long-term rewards. When a task is unpleasant or boring, we can attempt to tie more enjoyable activities to the task. I'll go knock out this project at the coffee shop while I grab my favorite drink, as this research suggests. Or we can forcefully add on artificial elements such as no turning back deadlines, as mentioned above. Personality. Unfortunately, personality plays a role in procrastination. Some people are just more impulsive than others. The upside is that although it's hard to control our personality, it is far easier to control our environment. For instance, I love beef jerky, and I will literally stuff my face with it if it is in my cabinets. To keep my binges to a minimum, I put it on a high cabinet that requires a stepladder to reach it, relying on the annoyance of getting to it rather than my own willpower. For work, I block out distractions by heading to quiet locations, like the library, and restrict myself from time-wasting sites with tools like Stay Focused. Expectations. If you expect to complete a task easily, then you are less likely to procrastinate. This pillar is a bit more difficult to hack, but the best trick is to simply realize that the first step is often the most psychologically difficult. It is usually the case that an impending to-do will be far less horrific than we imagine it to be. So if we can just commit 5 minutes to trying it out, we can see what it's really like. Goal failure. Fear of failure is a real thing for many procrastinators. This pillar really has to do with being confident in your abilities. For a more extensive take on that subject, I recommend this article on Inc., as well as this one on Nerd Fitness. Do the right kind of fantasizing. Fantasies about the future are generally okay to have and are all in good fun. But excessive fantasizing has been proven to be a goal killer and a huge reason people procrastinate. It tends to tie in with perfectionism. According to the study on motivation and fantasies, when you build castles in the sky, you may be sabotaging real, obtainable goals. The researchers tested subjects on how commonplace fantasizing about their future was and followed up on their performance on a number of categories. Take those subjects looking for a job. Those who spent more time dreaming about getting a job performed worse. 2 years after leaving college, the dreamers had applied for fewer jobs, had been offered fewer jobs, and if they were in work, had lower salaries. Work all the time you work. Every minute you spend not working when you are supposed to be working means that you'll have to catch up sooner or later, or you'll fail to make quick progress. If you need to catch up by working overtime, for example, this will cost you time away from friends and family. Therefore, work all the time when you're supposed to be working. Focus, remove distractions, and get the job done. Upgrade your key skills. A major reason for procrastination is a feeling of inadequacy, a lack of confidence, or an inability in a key area of a task. Feeling weak or deficient in a single area is enough to discourage you from starting the job at all. Therefore, resolve to continue to upgrade your key skills, the must-have skills for the job, by reading, following courses, and attending seminars. Max energy equals max productivity. When you don't take care of your health, your energy levels will fall dramatically, taking your productivity levels down as well. Invest in your health and upgrade your energy levels. The more energy you have, the harder, longer, and better you can and want to work. Resolve to exercise at least 3 times per week and eat healthy nutrition. Also, limit alcohol and caffeine intake to avoid energy crashes. Use the power of momentum. Even by taking only 5 minutes of action, you'll start to trigger the momentum principle. Momentum is extremely powerful when it comes to overcoming procrastination. Oftentimes, it's hard to start working on a task, but it takes far less willpower to continue working whenever we've already started. This is called momentum. Resolve to work for just 15 minutes on a task when you feel procrastination creeping in, as the momentum principle will likely keep you going for much longer. Single task your way to success. By concentrating single-mindedly on your most important task, you can reduce the time required to complete it by 50% or more compared to multitasking on tasks. It has been researched that by working on more than one task at the same time, it can take up to 500% longer to complete all of the tasks. This is because of the mental switching cost that decreases our focus and makes us work a lot slower and makes us prone to more mistakes as well. Try to reach a state of flow. A flow state is a mental state where you become completely immersed in the activity that you're engaged in. This state, which is colloquially referred to as being in the zone, is an optimal state of mind in terms of productivity, since it allows you to focus on your work and enjoy it, which significantly reduces the likelihood that you will procrastinate. To help yourself get to this state, try to create the right conditions by working during times when you're naturally productive and by removing external distractions from your environment in order to help yourself focus on the task at hand. Since being in this state is highly beneficial, and since it can be hard to get there, if you do find yourself in a flow state, don't stop working unless you absolutely have to. You can often accomplish more in a few hours of flow than in weeks of procrastination, which is why this mental state should be appreciated as much as possible. Set deadlines for yourself. Setting deadlines for yourself can reduce the likelihood that you will procrastinate, since deadlines serve as a commitment device, which helps you plan ahead and motivate yourself. When setting deadlines for yourself, there are several things you should keep in mind. Deadlines should be concrete. As we saw earlier, you are more likely to follow through on commitments that are concretely defined than you are to follow through on commitments that are vague. This means, for example, that Thursday at 4 p.m. is a better deadline than sometime tomorrow. Deadlines should be realistic. You should choose deadlines that give you as much time as you need to complete a task, but no more than that. Deadlines that don't give you enough time to get your work done can cause you to feel stressed or to give up entirely, while deadlines that give you more time than you need encourage you to delay unnecessarily, a phenomenon known as Parkinson's Law. Use a to-do list. Using a to-do list is highly beneficial when it comes to helping you avoid procrastinating for several reasons. It helps you break down your goals into actionable tasks. It helps you organize your tasks, prioritize them, and schedule them in an optimal manner. It helps you focus only on specific tasks that you need to be thinking of at the moment. It helps you write down deadlines and stick with them. It helps you track your progress and figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Gamify your behavior. Gamification involves incorporating elements from games, such as competition with others and the accumulation of points, into other types of activities in order to increase your motivation to work toward your goals. Gamification, when implemented correctly, can be a powerful tool when it comes to getting yourself to stop procrastinating. For example, to increase your motivation to complete tasks, you could reward yourself a number of points for each task that you complete and deduct a number of points for each task you procrastinate on. Furthermore, you can decide that once you get a certain number of points, you'll reward yourself in some way which provides you with increased motivation. Reward yourself for your accomplishments. People often procrastinate because important tasks that are rewarding for them in the long term are less appealing than less beneficial behaviors that feel more rewarding in the short term. As such, you can reduce the likelihood that you will procrastinate by associating rewards that are pleasant in the short term with actions that are good for you in the long term. For example, you can decide to take a short break and watch some TV for every chapter that you read in preparation for a test. Or you could eat a small piece of chocolate as a reward for every task that you complete while working on a project. Similarly, you can also make your accomplishments more rewarding by doing simple things such as writing down every task that you complete throughout the day, and then going over them at night to see how much you managed to get done. Plan ahead for future contingencies. One of the main reasons why people fail to break the procrastination cycle is that despite having a strong goal intention, which means that they truly want to stop procrastinating, they fail to plan ahead for circumstances that could cause them to procrastinate. This issue can be significantly mitigated by creating a strong implementation intention, which you can do by identifying future situations where you might struggle to self-regulate your behavior successfully, and then coming up with the appropriate goal-directed behaviors that you should engage in if you ever find yourself in those situations. Eliminate distractions. Removing distractions from your environment makes it more likely that you will focus on your work and avoid procrastinating. For example, if your phone emits a loud sound each time you get a notification, you're going to constantly be distracted while you work, which will make it hard for you to focus. In this situation, you will want to put your phone on silent mode or airplane mode while you work, which will help you concentrate on your work. When doing this, you should keep in mind the harmful influence that even seemingly minor distractions can have on you. Minimize the number of decisions you have to make. The more decisions you have to make during a certain time period, the more fatigued you become from a mental perspective, and the more likely you are to procrastinate when it comes to making new decisions. As such, by minimizing the number of decisions you have to make within a certain time frame, you can improve your ability to make decisions in a timely manner. For example, if you need to write a paper, you can create a timeline for which parts of the paper you need to work on in advance, so that you don't have to make the decision of what to work on each day. Similarly, you can pick the clothes that you will wear the next day right before you go to sleep, which will save you from having to make that decision right as you're starting your day. Switch between tasks. If you find yourself procrastinating on something because you feel stuck, consider switching to a different task for a while before returning to the original tasks that you were procrastinating on. Doing this is beneficial, even if it would ideally be preferable for you to work on the original task, since it's better to get something less important done than to do nothing at all, And since shifting between tasks at your discretion could help you become unstuck when it's time to return to the original task. Figure out what you're afraid of. People often procrastinate because they're afraid of something, whether that thing is doing badly on a task or getting negative feedback from others. Identifying the reason why you're worried about a task can help you cope with your fear, which in turn can help you get started on your work. For example, if you realize that you're procrastinating on starting a new hobby because you're worried that you'll embarrass yourself, you can talk to people in the community in order to address this fear, which will help you bring yourself to get started. Develop self-compassion. Self-compassion involves extending sympathy to yourself in situations where you feel bad about mistakes that you've made. Self-compassion is beneficial when it comes to dealing with your procrastination since it encourages the use of adaptive emotion regulation strategies in a way that reduces the likelihood that you will procrastinate, and since it can help you deal with the negative emotional impact of your procrastination. Self-compassion is comprised of 3 primary components. Self-kindness. This is the quality of being kind to yourself rather than critical during tough times. Common humanity. This is the quality of recognizing that imperfection and suffering are part of the shared human experience rather than something that isolates you. Mindfulness. This is the quality of being able to possess a balanced, non-judgmental, and accepting approach when dealing with your thoughts of emotions rather than feeling overwhelmed by them. Find a role model. A role model is someone who you admire, based on factors such as values, actions, or accomplishments, and who you aspire to be like. Finding a role model for yourself and then trying to emulate them can potentially help you regulate your behavior better in a number of ways, such as increasing your internal drive to persevere in the face of obstacles. For example, if you have a specific role model in mind and you find yourself in a situation where you know that you should work, but you feel a desire to procrastinate, ask yourself what your role model would do if they were in the same situation, or how you would feel if they could see you now. Live a disciplined life. Live a disciplined life to stop procrastinating. You're not going to like this, but here's the ultimate long-term fix for procrastination. Live a disciplined life. Eat healthy, exercise regularly, meditate daily, prioritize sleep, make your bed every morning, clean your room once a week, take cold showers, stop wasting hours of your day watching TV, playing video games, goofing off on social media, or reading the news. Read books, watch TED Talks, or listen to audiobooks instead. Living a disciplined life accomplishes 2 things. First, eating healthy, exercising regularly, meditating, and prioritizing sleep have all been shown individually to reduce procrastination. Likewise, reducing the amount of time you spend watching TV, playing video games, or otherwise wasting your time will also help you procrastinate less. Second, living a disciplined life is the key to developing self-control. You see, here's the secret to superhuman willpower. Self-discipline begets self-discipline. If you act with discipline, you become more disciplined. This isn't science fiction. This is rock-solid science. Research has shown that engaging in activities that require self-control, example, keeping track of what you're eating or how you're spending your money, remembering to sit up straight every time you think of it, helps you build your overall self-control muscle. Practice mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness. Like I said so many times before, procrastination is largely an emotion management issue. It always comes down to the moment of facing an uncomfortable task. One part of us wants to do it. The other part doesn't want to experience negative thoughts and emotions and wants to run away. We can either regulate our emotions, we let them be there and act in spite of them, or we can let our emotions and thoughts run the show. We run away, give in to feeling good, and procrastinate. It always comes down to that moment. We can either do the thing, whether we feel like it or not, or run away. Clearly, if we want to overcome procrastination in the long run, we need to get better at this. We need to get better at regulating our emotions. We need to be able to take action and follow through with our plans despite experiencing negative thoughts and emotions. So, how do we get better at it? How do we loosen the grip our thoughts and emotions have on us? The prime strategy for making that happen is mindfulness, a skill mainly developed through meditation, defined by the dictionary as a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment, while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations, used as a therapeutic technique. Mindfulness allows us to take a step back, watch our thoughts and emotions from a healthy distance, and remain more or less indifferent to them. It allows us to see our negative emotions without freaking out and overreacting to them. Put differently, it allows us to be with our emotions, to experience them fully within our body, and take constructive action in spite of them. Focus on your finish. Do you remember your experience learning to ride a bike? It seemed as if the object you were most focused on not running into was the only thing you couldn't avoid. I call this destination fixation. Our lives go where our focus is. Our brains struggle to process the negative, so focus instead on the positive. Where do you want to go? What goal do you want to achieve? From now on, rather than thinking of all the things that could go wrong or the reasons why you should put something off, focus on your finish and focus on the positives. Bonus tip: continually fill up your tank. To stay focused and keep moving toward your goals, you must protect your energy and mojo. Start by surrounding yourself with people who motivate and push you forward, and steer clear of people who bring you down. Who or what gives you energy and fills your tank? Write down activities, people, and things that make you feel good. Then, make time to have more of these things in your life. Conclusion: procrastination is nothing else but wasting time. Instead of doing the things we deeply care about, we spend our time on trivialities, wasting hours on social media, in front of the TV, reading gossip, playing video games. We waste time like nothing else, failing to realize that time is arguably the most precious and least renewable resource. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. You are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you. You don't notice how much time has already passed, but squander it as though you had a full and overflowing supply, though all the while, that very day which you are devoting to somebody or something may be your last. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. How late it is to begin really to live just when life must end. How stupid to forget our mortality and put off sensible plans to our 50th and 60th years, aiming to begin life from a point at which few have arrived. Stop putting things off into a future that may never come. The time to start living is now. Start pursuing your dreams and aspirations now. Start working on your legacy now. Start becoming the person you wish to be now. Disclaimer: all the material contained in this book is provided for educational and informational purposes only. No responsibility can be taken for any results or outcomes resulting from the use of this material. While every attempt has been made to provide information that is both accurate and effective, the author does not assume any responsibility for the accuracy or use/misuse of this information. This has been Stop Procrastination: Overcome Laziness and Achieve Your Goals. Written by Giovanni Rigters. Narrated by J.A. Leidig. Copyright 2019 by Giovanni Rigters. Production copyright by Giovanni Rigters.